Hey everybody, this is Kristen, and today I've got the Cotton Cuts Puzzle Mystery Quilt, clue number 4. Hopefully y'all have been sewing along with me, and hopefully you saw the big reveal that happened this week for the spring clue. And honestly, I am just so excited. I know we're only in month 4, but I'm really excited to see what ours turns out to be, because it was a gorgeous quilt. If you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and find Cotton Cuts on Instagram. It's probably up on their Facebook, Mystery Quilter Facebook page that hopefully y'all are on. It's there. It's really cool. So take a look. And hopefully that gets you even more excited. So what we have today, as always, Cotton Cuts sends us a package that has all of the pre-cut pieces of fabric that we're going to need, along with directions. So our list of directions comes in a piece of paper like this, how to, and you're going to notice, if this is your first time watching one of these videos, that the different pieces are numbered like 1 through 6. And that's because we have a clue sheet essentially saying fabric 1 is this, fabric 2 is that. So when they print it out in black and white for us, we can decipher the clue, as it were. So you get that. You get all of your pre-cut fabric, which I know it's just kind of in a blob right now. It comes a lot prettier than this, but I was taking it apart so I could actually make the clue for you guys. And then we also get a block of the month card, which is the double wedding ring, which is one of my favorites, because my mom made me a double wedding ring quilt years and years ago, back when I was just like, oh, it's a blanket, who cares? But now it lives on my bed. So this is near and dear to my heart, and the cool thing is, if you color it and then post hashtag CC Color Challenge, you can actually win some fabric. So don't forget about that. That's an option for you guys. Alright, so what are we doing this month? This month we're making 2 different pieces. First piece is like this, and second piece is like this. So these might look very similar to pieces that we've done in other months. Maybe it has a correlation, maybe it doesn't, who knows. One thing to keep in mind though, if you have a small or a large, you're going to get slightly different clues. So these clues are for the small quilt, okay? So keep that in mind. As always, I have a tip or trick from you guys. This month's is from Sharon, and she says she hates marking quilts, so sometimes she uses masking tape, and she sews right next to the tape, and then it's very easy to remove after sewing. So if you are trying to sew lines, I'm assuming you can put masking tape on your quilt themselves for quilting purposes. I've even seen people do like washi tape or masking tape on the machines, and then you have a guiding line that you could just put your fabric against. So thank you, Sharon, for that tip. If anybody else has tips, tricks, definitely post them in the comments below, and I will pick one to use in my video next month. Alright, if you're not going to sew along with me, it's pretty much the end. So subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification button so you never miss an episode, and tell me what you thought. Good, bad, ugly? Do you like the idea of a puzzle quilt? Are you excited about yours? Let me know in the comments. Alright, for the rest of you who want to sew along with me, let's get going. Alright, so before you get started, make sure you have your handy dandy clues 1 through 6 cheater page. And again, I'm Team Foxtrot, so that's my colors here. Make sure you have your directions, because you really can't do anything without those. And we're just going to start on sections D1 and D2. So I already made one of these, and that's going to be the quarter square triangle that I showed you. So you are going to get out your triangle pieces. You should have 4 of them. You're going to have 2 of your color 1s a color 2 and a color 4. So I've got all 4 pieces here. So you're going to take a 6 and a 1 to start. So 6 is going to, sorry, a 1, 4, and 6, not a 2. So number 6 has long side out, and then number 1 is going to be a short side touching the long side. So that's what's going to be there, and then when you put everything else together, it's going to turn out like that, okay? So we're just doing half of it. I'm going to flip it over, and everybody, I actually got a, there we go. All right. So I actually got a 1/4 foot, hallelujah, finally. My parents got it for me for my birthday, and I know everybody was telling me, get a 1/4 foot, get a 1/4 foot, it's gonna make a world of difference. And of course, me being stubborn, I'm sitting here thinking to myself, how much of a difference can a foot make? But seriously guys, I am so in love with it. I don't bother actually drawing a line anymore. I just pin or take my little clips and go. Alright, so let's get going on this. I'm going to get my leader going like we talked about on the other one. And that's just to get my fabric started so it doesn't eat my good stuff. So remember, when you're putting them together, we put pretty sides together or right sides together. Make sure that those are what you want. And we're going to be sewing both bias edges. So be really careful that you're not pulling or stretching or doing anything like that, because bias edges can be really touchy, okay? So we'll get started on the piece, this first piece of number 1. Gotta make sure you hold your ends. And I know you don't have to pull pins, but you definitely can. Alright, my ender is through, so now I'm going to line up my first piece. The way my 1/4 foot works is I just line it up against the edge. And as long as I do that, when I went through the first part of the clue this month, literally everything lined up perfectly the first time. I didn't have to take it apart. It was amazing. Loved it. Alright, so I got the first part put together. So now, since I like chain piecing, I'm going to put the second part together right away. So on this one, the long side of your colored block, which is number 4, is going to be on that, what would be a right-hand side. So we just made essentially that left-hand side. So the right-hand side, and then one's on the bottom. So I'm going to flip this on top, and it's going to be this edge right here. So instead of pinning or actually having to sit there and draw lines, this thing has, this 1/4 foot has really sped things up, which is amazing. With cotton cuts, you get to go through really quickly anyways, but with the right foot, it's so much quicker. So. So that's the first part of clue number 1. Just like last month, I think I'm just going to chain piece this stuff because it's easier for me, it's quicker. But if you are newer, you don't like doing that sort of thing, you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it, okay? You can just do it exactly as the directions tell you. It's really easy to understand those directions, so don't feel like you have to match me, okay? So that's the first part of clue number 1. The quarter square triangle is going to eventually be attached to this piece, but since we don't have that yet, I'm going to put that aside. So I'm going to move on to step 3, which is join your number 1 fabric, which again is your white or light color, with your number 5 fabric, and this is going to be a square. So this is going to be my number 5, and I'm just going to put the 5 against the 1, and it's going to be on your right hand side. So I'm going to put those two together. Make sure they're even up. And before you start sewing, guys, don't forget to just go ahead and measure and make sure everything's right. Last month, one of my pieces was 1/8 of an inch off, which maybe can be creatively pieced in the end. I don't know. It made me nervous, so I talked to Kim and she sent me a new one. Super, super quick, no problems. It was great. So if yours is off, pretty please, just go to the Cotton Cups website, and there's actually a form that you can fill out specifically for a missing or improperly cut piece. All right, so that part's done. Now we're going to move on to step, so this is going to be sections E1 and E2, and this is step 1 of that. So you're going to want to put out your number 2 fabric next to a number 3 fabric, and then it just keeps going. Then you have a 2 fabric, and then you have more attached. So let me move you again and get a picture of my workspace. All right, so we have a, I never remember to put you farther enough back. There we go. So we have a 2 fabric with a 3 fabric with another 2 fabric, and then you're gonna put a 4 fabric in, which for me is this orange. Then you're gonna have another 2 fabric, another 3 fabric, and a number 2. So this is what you're going to be sewing together, and then eventually you have 2 strips, one for the top and one for the bottom. So since I'm chain piecing, what I'm going to be doing is just kind of flipping these over, and those are the sections that I'm going to be piecing together. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I'll come back when I have these pieces ready to assemble further. Alright everybody, so I've got all of my pieces that you saw me sewing. They're all ready to be pressed, and for a second I have to tell you how excited I am to have this actual pressing station. My parents brought me a like one of those old desks that just kind of, it's just the one piece that lifts up, and we covered it and made it into a pressing station, so no more TV trays. Alright, so pressing. As always, you're literally just going to press down, and then once my iron heats up, you're just going to roll it back. And what you want to make sure, get all these other guys out of my way, what you want to make sure is that when you're pressing, you're not ironing. There's no back and forth, side to side, none of that. You're literally just setting the seam and then rolling. And again, notice I wasn't pushing, you're not putting pressure on, because what happens is if you put too much pressure, then you're going to see your seams in this opening here. You're going to see your stitching, and that's not pretty. Nobody wants to see that. So press and roll, and it just kind of nicely does it for you. You shouldn't have to work really hard at getting the fabric to roll over. If you're working really hard, it might be because you've got little pieces, something to that effect, but generally shouldn't have much of an issue. And I always press to the dark side. Some people press it open. Sometimes people just kind of pick and choose. It is up to you. The directions don't say one way or the other. So, All right, there we go. All of this is pressed, and now I'm going to put these two pieces together and make my quarter square triangle. And then of course this will go on the bottom eventually. And then these three guys will be able to be sewn to each other, so I'm probably going to sew these two together. And then I've got one little piece of this that I'm going to sew onto the back end. So I'm going to do all of that, and then we'll be coming back where you can kind of see how all of this is going together. Okay, so I've got the two sections. I've got this little short section and my little bit longer section sewn together, and now I'm going to combine the two. So you're going to match up for what is number 4 is my darker orange to a number 2 fabric. So those two are going to get attached, well, sewn together, and that's going to complete my strip, except for obviously the top and the bottom of that. So in addition to that, we have to put together our quarter square triangles, okay? So you're going to make sure that the white does not touch each other, and if you press to the dark, you'll see that my seams, when I put them together, they nestle really nicely in there. So you can kind of make sure that they are tight, essentially. So I'm going to be pinning these ones, not clamping them with a little, not clothespins, they're plastic, but you know what I'm talking about. So I'm not doing it on this one because when I did my mock-up, my ones that I showed you earlier, I had done that, and then I noticed that the clips was really pulling the fabric down. It was just too heavy. So that is why I am pinning. So I'm going to sew these guys together, I'm going to sew the other section together, and then we're pretty darn close. Then I have to put this on the side of my quarter square triangle, and then that bottom piece that we already made, and then just the top and the bottom of my strip. So we're over halfway there, and let's get sewing. Alright, so we've got this guy all done. So we're actually going to jump back up to the top of page 2. And that says that you want your 6 fabric, which is this green one for me, oriented to the left. And then we're going to take our number 3 fabric and sew it so that it's touching the number 4 fabric. So for me, this guy is touching this guy. So I'm going to get that set up. And while I'm doing that, so the next thing that we're going to be doing is sewing some long strips. And yeah, it's not as long as, you know, borders or anything, but it definitely still can come into play here. Month or two ago, we were talking about what to do when you have these long strips. So you should have 2 long strips, and what you're going to do is you're going to sew them so that it looks like this. So pretty sides together as always. And remember when we were talking about that you're going to kind of find the middle, and what I want to do is here's the middle, and I'm going to use my pins because, as I was saying with the other one, it just gets too heavy if you are using the clips, and then it was kind of pulling down my fabric. So I'm going to pin, but what I'm going to do is, so I have one in the middle, I pinned one to the side, and now here's the middle again. I'm going to pin one over on this side. And I'm just going to kind of keep flip-flopping, and that's going to help keep my fabric more steady. So it's not getting pulled one direction over another, and then I have to unpin and repin and do that dance over and over and over again. Kind of a pain in the butt, as it were. So I'm not going to do that. And I'm going to try to remember to remind you guys, but sometimes I just get sewing and I forget. But one thing to consider when you're sewing is if you're sewing long strips, say I'm starting at this side, when I sew this side, I don't want to start at the same side because that's how you get waves. So starting on this side this time, starting on this side the next time. So that is what I'm going to do. And it looks to me like I need some work on my pressing because you can see there's some overlap. So I'm going to undo all the pinning, I'm gonna run back over to my pressing mats and see if I left a little bit of slack in there somewhere. I don't think it's my sewing because I do have that 1/4 inch foot now, but if it is, I can always unpick and redo it. So stand by. Alright, so I got my problem solved and I'm going to start on this end. To remind myself, I put a little extra pin in here. So when I go to do my next strip, I don't forget. So I'm going to put a new leader on because, naughty Kristen, I forgot to do an ender on my last one. So get that going. There we go. And so normally you're going to see that this fabric is what I call upside down, so you're actually seeing all the seams. Normally I don't do that. What I am doing this for today is sometimes when you have piecing that's not quite perfect, I will go from the end that is fitting correctly, because a lot of times what happens is as you're sewing, a teensy bit of fabric gets pushed down, and that's actually happening right here, right now. So I have my fabric kind of getting pushed down as we go, and that should make everything line up where it needs to be on the other end. So you're going to see I'm kind of like undoing it on the way down, just so that I can make sure that this that slop is kind of taken out, so I don't get lumpy if I don't need it to be lumpy. And voila, just about perfect. So, nifty little trick that I discovered a while back if you are close but not perfect. Alright, gotta get that second piece started in here. And then we literally have 2 more things to sew on and we are done with this month. Now as you are sewing, again, don't forget we're not tugging, we're not twisting, we're not pulling or pushing. We are just guiding the fabric. So you can kind of just rest your hands, your fingertips there, and just keep it on line. So that's really all you're doing. So if you are having issues with your sewing, maybe consider that you are pushing and pulling, even if you don't know you are. So think about it. Alright, so I'm trying to get my ender going, and where's my snips? There they are. So I'm having a little bit of a malfunction where my machine is just kind of chewing into my fabric there, creating a big old knot. This is exactly why I do a leader and an ender, because if this happened to my really nice fabric, I would be upset. Granted, this is nice fabric too from the quilt store, but I can handle that a little bit better. For whatever reason, that doesn't bother me nearly as much as this stuff getting chewed up. So I'm just going to flip it around so that it is starting on the other side, the one that's not chewed up. Let's see if we can get it to work this time. There we go. And Sometimes it's just a matter of slowing down, making sure your fabric catches. Alright, leader and ender, good to go. Take off my old leader. And I'm going to press these open, and then we're going to go from there. We're almost done. Alright, so I wanted to clarify something that I realized I said and may have been confusing to you. When I said press it open, I just meant pressing this fabric away from this fabric, not pressing the seams open. These seams are pressed towards that short piece. So I'm going to take my other short piece, and by that I mean short width, just the strip, and I'm going to attach it just like I did last time to the long piece. So one other trick that I've picked up is to find the middle. You just fold it in the middle and give it a finger press. I'm going to do the same thing with this one again, because when I ironed it, that press came out. So you just need a little bit of a, not quite of a, ridge or anything, but just a little bit of something to tell you where your middle of both pieces of fabric are. And you match those two up as best you can, and you should be pretty darn close to the middle. So again, I'm going to pin to one side and then pin to the other. Do your best to use your fingers to help keep everything straight without pulling. This is the tough part, is you want to have everything taut, but not so much that you're getting wavy lines or anything like that. So it's a delicate balance, but if you do it right, it really, really helps. Alright, so I'm going to finish putting all of my pins on this one, and really guys, when you finish getting this second one on, this part of your clue is done. So like I said, we are almost there for the month. Oh, and look at that. Pretty! So it lined up where it should, so I am happy. And so I've got everything pinned. This side has the pin that I put in, so if you can see that. So that means this side is the side we started with last time, so I am going to sew from this side. And because it was upside down the first time, it's upside down again, but that's okay. Alright, second piece, we're going to do this guy, and your fabric 3 is going to match up with your fabric 5. So make sure white touches white, okay? And then again, usually you can nest seams, but for me I always press to the dark, so I actually have two seams going the same way. So I'm just going to pull this one back like this so that I can nest, and when I go to press my seam, I'm just going to switch that to the other side. So I'm going to iron it to the other side as soon as I get done with this. So for me, I like doing that because then when my seams are nested, they seem to line up better, and you just have a better finished product. And it's just kind of easier too. They just fit so nicely together. It's kind of like a puzzle piece. So I don't mind having to switch over a seam, flip it the other direction, if it means the rest of my quilt looks pretty. Alright, so just about done. I'm going to sew these two together, press them, and that'll be it. Alright everybody, so we finished our two pieces. That one and this guy. And that is it for clue number 4 today. So we've got another 6 months, another 6 clues, and then we finally get the reveal. So I'm super excited, and I hope you are too. So what I tend to do is I'll take the sleeve, which I'm not sure where I put right now, the plastic sleeve that it came in, and I'll put the directions, what I made, and then I always put this in there too in the most recent one, so I kind of keep everything together. So all of that will be sitting ready waiting for me, and hopefully hopefully we'll have fun with this. I'm sure we will, but I'm excited. I'm getting really impatient, guys. All right, so if you have any questions, comments, concerns, as always, drop me a line below. Subscribe, comment, hit the like button and the notification so you never miss a video. And if you have a tip or trick, let me know, and I might just choose yours for next month. All right, thanks, guys.